Awesome. Let's get started. Okay, so welcome. If you're here live, do a quick hi in the chat so I know everything is working and you can see everything. So today we are talking about something very nerdy, but I promise it's more fun than it sounds. We are talking all things Airtable forms. So Airtable forms rule, and if you've been using Airtable for a long time, hi Asha, great to see you. If you've been using Airtable forms for a long time, there's so many upgrades that have happened with Airtable forms over the last year or so that I really want to just make sure that you know best practices. So if you have an Airtable form that you've been using, go ahead and open it up and follow along with me on this live, and we'll be able to play around with it together. So if you're using Airtable to manage your clients, your leads, your onboarding, your testimonials like that, you are already probably using Airtable forms, or you should be. If you are using any Google Forms in 2026 and you are in my world, stop doing that. Every Google form needs to be replaced with Airtable, every Notion form, every Tally form, anything like that. The only exception I have to this rule is if you want I'll show you, I'm going to show you today how to make Airtable forms pretty. But if you need something that has a little more flexibility, like something like a type form, for example, if you're using Typeform and you like that it has multiple pages and a bunch of different conditionality and it just can do a lot, we actually have a whole other form builder called Fillout that I love. So if you want multi-page forms, really advanced conditional logic, more custom layouts, if you want to add videos into your form, payment collection, Fillout is amazing, and I will absolutely make you a tutorial for that if you're interested. So if you're interested in that, put Fillout in the chat and I can walk you through a more advanced form builder that's very Airtable friendly. But today we are talking specifically about Airtable forms because there is so much that those can do. And there's a ton of little upgrades that you can do to make your forms look better and work smarter without needing to go into Fillout, without needing to go into another form. Because really, a lot of the time, you do not need another tool. You don't need something like that. You just need to set up what you already have with Airtable better. So let's go into what we're covering today. So the three things that we're covering today, all about having your Airtable forms work smarter, look better. One, I'm going to show you some tips on how to make them look good on the front end side. There's just some tweaks that you can make over the upgrades that have been happening over the last year or so. So your form is really a part of your client experience, right? So there's things that we can do to kind of elevate it, make it a little more branded. So I'll show you some tips and tricks there. And then that's the first one. The second thing we're going to do is reassure the person who submitted it. So they should know their form went through, what happens next, and whether they need to do anything else. So I'll just show you some of my best practices for ensuring the client experience for everything is taken care of after they submit the form. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is giving you a way to actually see and manage responses and the data. Because of course, we don't want to just have our forms there and be gathering dust. We really want you to make sure that you are doing things with it. So I'm going to show you different ways that you can review the data using interfaces and create charts to kind of see trends and all of those things. So that's what we're doing today. And someone asked, is it more affordable? So Airtable forms are on the free. They're available on the free plan. If you want to do some the branding capabilities, you will have to pay. And it's the $24 a month plan. So I highly recommend upgrading to Airtable's team plan when you're ready for it. It's great. But you can definitely get started on the free plan. But this is, I'm assuming with your forms, if you want to up level some of the forms, you might hit a snag with some of this stuff. This is all assuming that you are on the paid plan. But if you're on the free plan, you can do some of these things as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, hope you can see me okay. Fantastic. So I just want to kind of give you an overview of what forms used to look like and what they look like now. So if you've been using Airtable for years and years, you used to come back to the data side. This is the back end of Airtable, and you could say create new form. And you can even see here it's saying try an upgraded form building experience. I do not do form views anymore. I'm always doing the form builder. But if you're in the back end of forms, I do highly recommend that you upgrade to the front end form builder, the new form builder that we'll do today. This one you can see it just doesn't have a lot of capability in terms of branding. It is very linear. It's very down the list. It's just not as nice as it could be. So we don't use this anymore. So if you've been using Airtable for years, you probably have some form views here that you can upgrade into the new form builder. So you could click upgrade to new forms. It would literally upgrade the form for you. But you can also go up here where it says forms. And we're going to click that. And you can see here are all of our forms. So I'm going to pick one of my forms. We're going to talk about an onboarding form today. And I really recommend that all of you, if you have clients, you have an onboarding form that welcomes them into your offer and gives them exactly what they need to get, like what they need to get started, what you need to know from them to get started. So we're going to walk through some best practices using the onboarding form as an example. So I already have a form built out. You can already start to see that there's like way more flexibility here than there was in like that backend, that form view. So I'm just going to start from the top down and give you some like best practices and ideas here. One, let's start at the top, add a cover image. So with this add a cover image, I highly recommend always, like, if we have the ability to do a background, like we might as well. The one thing that's annoying about the cover image is that it's like kind of flexible with its image stuff. So I would really recommend, pro tip, don't put any words on there, don't put any welcome headers. Do something that's more like a background, a texture, anything like that. So I'm going to click open. There's me and my friends. I'm going to click upload one file. Because it's not bad to not have a cover form, but it's cool to have. And if you go here to appearance, this is new, you can have cover or you can have full. I love full. What that's going to do is kind of give you this nice, like, I'll click share really quick. Like, it just kind of gives this like nice background. So it's an easy way to brand your forms if you need to do anything like that. Of course, that might not work for every type of form that you have, but that's something that's kind of a new feature that I really like. So, and of course, you might as well add a logo, get some color in here. So the first thing is like, let's make the form look cute, look like on brand for you. And then we've got down here, you can use high contrast borders as well. That's going to give you just like kind of high contrast borders. I personally like them. So it gives you more of those borders there. So there's that. Of course, you have a title and you have a description. Always, like, I always run this through AI. I'm just like, hey, here's my form. Here's what I want. Can like welcome them and tell them exactly what to expect, like what they're going to do, why they're submitting the form, how long it's going to take them, and what happens afterwards. So this is just some checklist stuff because this is more of a template, but you can put anything that you want here. I always recommend when you're doing Airtable forms, they have this new ability to add groups. So add groups that make it easy for your clients and your leads to understand the flow and like make it easy for somebody to go through your form. So you have this show group title, you can show descriptions, you can add as much helper text as possible. And then they have this show background color, which honestly, it's just either gray or white. So it really depends on if you want to use that or not. So use groups. So think about the sections and chunks. So in specifically this form, we have about you, client demographic and marketing details, program promise questions, and a timeline and shout out request. So think about the grouping of your questions and literally add those groups accordingly. So that's my other pro tip. And then let's see. I really like with Airtable forms in the new form builder, you can have different columns. So you can have like multiple fields and different columns here, right? So we always have, personally, we like to do this. We do select your name from the dropdown. And so the clients can pop up here. You can also change the visibility and you can say only show clients where the status is active. So if you have a bunch of graduated clients, you don't have to like have them show up in the form, right? So you can get really filtered and granular. This is good for any program. If they're in a group program and they're going to see people in the community, it's absolutely the easiest thing to do to just have this drop down and automatically connect their form to their client profile. Now, if you don't know what a client profile is, and if you're not currently managing your clients in Airtable, I have a client hub template that like has all of this. So I highly recommend setting that up. If you've never used Airtable before, I actually have a free Airtable template. It's a very, very basic, we call it the client hub test drive. It's just about your client hub like little profile. It's not really covering all the other things. Support ticketing forms, client results trackers, all the things Airtable can do. But if you just want a free taste of what Airtable looks like to manage clients and what these kind of forms look like, there's actually you can sign up for that in the link in the description below. Let's see. Cool. Let's see. Yes, Ashley said totally forgot about branding options within Airtable itself. Yep, it's totally possible. Yes, yes, you're just trying to remember all the awesomeness at one time, and it's easy to forget. 100% cool. So yes, the client dropdown is helpful, and if you, I always like to have this as well. Pro tips. This is just like all the pro tips. Ashley's pro tip forms. If they don't see their name in the dropdown, I don't want them to have to message you and say, I couldn't find my name. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fill out the form. So always have a name if not in the dropdown and an email if not in the dropdown. So that way they can still submit the form and you can figure out why they didn't show up on the dropdown later. And if you don't like to have a dropdown, maybe it's a more sensitive program where they don't want to see their names, you can delete this and you can just have their name and email, and an automation could connect it on the back end. We're not going to walk through that today, but just know that's possible. So my biggest other pro tip here, this is more just like with form design, of like not only make it pretty, but make it simple for your audience to fill this out. So think about, what are the questions that really matter to you? Don't ask them what their favorite coffee order is if you are not planning on sending them coffee. Don't ask them a million questions about all these different metrics in their marketing if you only really care about like 2 to 3. So really get clear. And what I always recommend is fill out this form as if you were your client and see where the friction is. So if you're asking them for profit and loss, and you have clients that would never know that, and they'd have to like go like down a rabbit hole to figure this out, maybe you ask them a different question in their onboarding form or in the forms in general. So always recommend like figuring out what you want to ask them, what's the least amount of questions that you can ask them, but like to get moving. So there's that. I always, this is another thing. What year did you start your business, for example? You always want to make sure, what's really cool about Airtable forms now is you can change this title, you can add helper text. So go ahead and do that as much as makes sense. You just always want to make sure that the title here does not change the field source over here. So what that means is, if I said, what year did you start your business? If I change this and I said like, what, how many years have you been in business? That's a different question than what year did you start your business, right? But over here on the back end of our data, it still says, what year did you start your business? So you just want to make sure, if you change a form on the front end questions, you're changing it on the back end. Your data is going to get really messy and confusing if you don't. So we're going to click save there. You can change like size, like those things are new. It feels like every week there's like a new little thing that you can do. We have something like this. I always recommend, if you can, give as much like drop downs as possible. You can do a layout here. You can either have a drop down. I personally love this large size. I use this all the time because the color fills. So satisfying to me. So I like that instead of small. I always do large when I can. But it's either drop down large or I do the list. So figuring out that. And then, of course, if you have an other, you can do visibility to say where profession is other, have this only pop up there. Mm-hmm. Yes, Ashley said in the comments, I love that you can use a formula to truncate things like last name to get the best of both worlds. You absolutely can do that in the drop downs. If you wanted to say like Ashley R, something like that, or just a company name, or give somebody a code, you could totally do that. Fantastic. So those are overall best practices I think that I had for here, is just like go through. There's like these forms have come such a long way in Airtable. A lot of the times people did not like the old forms and they just didn't like the branding, but I have found that these absolutely work for the majority of the things that we do in our business. So you have these like, plan on following the 90-day timeline, or I'm not planning on following the 90-day timeline. Like, what do you want to ask? What do you care about? For us, this specifically, I ask these questions. Every question I ask for a very specific reason. For us on the back end, I'm like, yay, we like celebrating our clients on joining the program. Can we shout you out on IG? And we say yes. On the back end, I have a filtered view to say, hey, here's the people that said we could shout them out. Go ahead and tag them, team, and then they can shout them out. So it helps us with our systems. So the more you, like, every field has a purpose. The other thing that I would caution you about with Airtable forms is I absolutely hate their redirect to URL. I do not know why they have it like this. I think it's so annoying. I'm going to show you what it does just so you can see. Like, it makes sense in theory, but I hate it. So if I click publish and I open this form and I fill all this out and I click submit, it's going to give you this form submitted successfully, redirecting to Google. And it takes like 5 to 6 seconds. I don't like it. I think it's an ugly experience. I rarely use it. You can use it if you need to, if that doesn't bother you, but it bothers me. So I don't personally do the redirect to URL. I just have a message that says, thanks for submitting the form. Please check your email, or whatever the next steps are there. And then email responses. If you want to send yourself an email, you can always click that. That's an option too. I don't click like allow printing. There's like a lot of things that I don't really need it to do. And then if you have the capabilities, you might as well remove the Airtable branding. I don't need them to know it's an Airtable form. I do not need them to know it's an Airtable form, but if you can take that off, you might as well. So those are some of my front end tips. So brand where you can, add in your help text, play around with some of the different field type options, and don't use the redirect. Any other questions about the front end of like making an Airtable form look good? Yeah, some people really need a redirect. And so they don't want to use this form. Like, that's a deal breaker for them for this. If that's the case, then is where you can use something like fill out, which I could do a whole other video on if that's helpful for y'all. Just checking my notes. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, I'm actually going to fill out this form as a test, so then I have it to test some data. So let me do that real quick. Let's say it's client 1. What made me join this program? Ashley is amazing. Okay, how many years have you in business? 5. The reason why I'm specifically asking this question in this mock onboarding form is because it answers an objection. So I always, like, you can kind of see my notes here, I want you to have questions in your onboarding form that are answering objections that you get in your marketing. So if they're like, well, I've just started, or I've been in business for 10 years, is this for me? You can go into the back end of your data and say the average person has been in business 5 years. So your marketing data, you can get actual data to use in your marketing from your forms. Or like, I'm a fitness coach, would this work for me? And we can say, we've had X amount of fitness coaches in the program. How many IG followers do I have? 2,500. If you're asking a rating score too, what's your experience with Airtable? I always like to do a rating, so a quantitative one. And then why did you give yourself that score? A qualitative one. Because I'm a pro. There we go. I plan on following your 90-day timeline, and yes, you can shout me out on IG. So we're going to say submit. Beautiful. Okay. So that's the first step. The other thing that we want you to do is we want you to make sure that you are telling your audience and the person who filled this form what happens next, and sending them an automatic confirmation. Most of y'all are doing this, but there's just there's a couple things that you can do that I just want to make sure that you're doing, not doing, some best practices there. So we're going to go into automations, and I'm just going to show you some options that you can do. So if you could create new automation, we're going to say when a form is submitted in our onboarding form, you select the form. I'm going to choose the record we just did. That is today. So what's cool about this is I love doing conditional logic. So I can say if they are, let's say we care about like, okay, they're planning on following the 90-day timeline. So if our program promise is I plan on following the 90-day timeline, then send them this email. And of course, subject, we got your onboarding form. You connect your Gmail account. This is available on the free plan as well. The 2 is going to be the email. So this is a pro tip, y'all. you look up their email from their primary client record, or you do a comma, you do the email that they have in the if it's not in the dropdown. So that way it's going to capture both. So whether they were in the dropdown or not, it's going to automatically look up their client record. And if you don't know what that is, you can go get my Client Hub test drive for free and kind of play around with that. Or it will just grab their email. So that's nice. So if they aren't in the dropdown, they still get the email. Hey there. Put the email things that you want. What you can do here is, I like this. If I'm going to scroll all the way down at the bottom, you can say insert the whole record as a list. You can say here's all of your answers. So you can put all of those there. Business name, topic, da, 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 da. If you want to put all of that in there, you certainly can. So you can say insert list of records. If I preview that, it looks so simple in the automation here, right? But if you go to generate preview, it like has it all here. So that's nice if you're like want to say at the end, like, hey, and by the way, here is your submission. That can be really nice. So like, thanks for submitting your onboarding form. Because you are planning on following the timeline, here's what's next. And just as a note, this is in Markdown. I know Markdown enough that I can do this like with my eyes closed, but you see here, it says use Markdown or HTML for rich text formatting. If you go to this and more, it's going to give you all of the different little codes. This is also a great thing to do with AI too. If you wanted to be like, hey, here's my email, put it in a Markdown code, it'll do it for you. But it's a good little cheat sheet to have. So if you wanted to do a hyperlink, you would do like these brackets with parentheses, so you can kind of play around with that. So you just want to make sure, like, when a form is submitted, you have this type of automation set up. So let's say if you had something different for another group, you would duplicate that group, edit the condition if they're not planning on following the timeline. Because you are not planning on following the timeline, here's what's next. Like, you can just very quickly really customize your forms based on what people said in their form. So I love that about Airtable. It makes it so dynamic. And you can, of course, use this for if they said they wanted to be in a testimonial. We do this. If we have somebody fill out a form and I say like, hey, you finished this module. Did you like it? Are you interested in being a case study? And they say, yes, I want to be a case study. In that email, we send them our Acuity link to book a call with me to like get interviewed. So very cool. We love that. And then of course, I don't send that to the people who don't want to be a case study, right? So you can use this type of skill set and automation in so many different ways when it comes to forms. If you also wanted to get a Slack reminder, you can set that up too. So I'm going to say when a form is submitted, I personally put that up here because we don't need to customize it for each one. So we'll say in our admin channel, say new onboarding form submitted. So we'll do that. And then we'll add in the record and any like relevant details. You can just pop that in there. Cool. So if you have any form, I highly recommend you also have this, this automation set up. If you've been in Airtable a long time, you might have something like this, but I hope like you kind of play around with conditional logic, can get more customized with your forms. Let's see. Okay, cool. Great. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is so many of my clients are afraid of interfaces. Interfaces are really, really cool when it comes to form data. So I'm going to show you how a lot of you, I actually do not really look at, like a lot of you will go into your onboarding form data view here now, and we'll look at all of the stuff and be like, cool, here's all my data. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing this. I'm going to group this by profession. So you might do something like this. I'm going to go, let's say these were all filled out. Cool. You might be looking at your data like this. It's just can be a lot to look at. And I think a lot of people who are afraid of Airtable because they don't like to look at spreadsheets, this doesn't really work well for their brain. Luckily, interfaces makes it so cool and easy to look at this stuff now. So I'm going to go to interfaces, and I'm actually going to build an interface from scratch. So I'm going to go to interfaces, and I'm going to say onboarding form data. I always default to dashboard. It's my favorite one, my favorite layout for interfaces. So this is the one I always start with. And I'm going to go to onboarding form. Here we go. Okay. I always start from scratch. Start from scratch, and I'm going to add a list. So now we have a list of everything, but it's not everything that we exactly need to see. So I'm going to you can hide what you don't need to see. So what I care about, client record, created time, let's say profession. So whatever you want to see. So we're going to do that. But then I also can do charts right away. So I can say, let's do a number of forms submitted. That is, number of forms submitted is 6. So I know how many forms have been submitted. But I can also see a pie chart. And so I can see, this one already says like following timeline. 66% of people plan on following the timeline. 33% are not following the timeline. So already you can be like, what do I want to see at a glance when it comes to this form? And you can create really quick charts that can help you with that. So I do a lot of pie charts, honestly. So we have that. And I'm also going to say, okay, category. I want the field to be, let's do profession. Give it a name. I kind of like the bottom orientation personally. Cool. So now we can start to see some things. So like we're pretty split down the middle between money coaches, business coaches, and fitness coaches. So all of this, not only are you collecting form data, this is why I hate Dubsado forms with a fiery passion. Because all of the form data lives in silos, so you can't see trends. So with Airtable, you can create interfaces like this to see trends. Ashley asks, is there a way to filter on interfaces for specific timeframes for the whole interface, or is it just by an element thing? So something that you can do, I like this. I always like to use like tabs. You can do a tab, or you can do a drop down for the filters. So if I did a tab and I'll say submitted within the last 30 days, you can filter that tab where created time is within the past number of days, 30. So you can see, okay, there's just 2. So there's ways that you can play around with like however you want to do it. You can create these tabs to be able to see that. So I think that's what you were talking about, but that's something that you can play with. And then of course you can see all the records. So we've got that. So number of forms submitted, profession. Let me do one that's like, okay, how many IG followers do you have? Cool. So I'm going to show you, if you have anything numerical, this is like a really cool way to visualize. First, I'm going to go, I like with the list, I'm going to say edit records in line, add and delete records. I always put these on and then click into record details. I'm going to show you what record details do in a second. It's really cool. But I'm going to just do some test numbers here. This would already be filled out. Say this person 950, this person has 99. Okay. So we have all of these people. Let's say it's an IG growth group program, right? We have all these people. I want to know I'm going to do a number, minimum number of IG followers. I'm going to do a summary of the IG followers. Do the min, 27. I love this click to see underlying records thing too, because then you can open up and see everybody. It's going to sort. Cool. We got the minimum. Duplicate. Then I want to see the average. Summary type, average. The average is 796. What is the max? Summary type is max. I use this all the time. So this is helpful for me to say, like, what's like, where are people's starting points? Or like, what's the minimum, average, and maximum of IG followers, of starting weight, of revenue goals, of, like whatever that is, having like a minimum, average, and max of your data is really cool. You can also do colors, play around with that. So it just really lets you view your data and your form data in a way that you can actually visualize and take action on. I hope this is helpful to see. And if you aren't doing anything like this, you can see I just did like 6 data points in just like a couple minutes. Of course, I'm a little faster, but it's really easy to start to see like, what do I want to see and how do I create like a visual database for this to happen? What's awesome too is if a new form gets submitted, all of this data like will just like populate automatically. So nobody on your team has to like generate a report that's out of date by the next time somebody submits. It's just constantly being updated. So that's seeing the high level stuff. But if you wanted to go in and see a client's actual entry, you can click this. It says open. And it can actually create a little page record detail that gives you all of the form itself. Now, this might be a little annoying because you do have to build this page. So for example, I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to add the group. What I recommend is have your form up side by side, because you basically, my recommendation is build the form first and then come up here and toggle between the two and say, okay, about you, just like fill it, like just create a backend that's exactly matches the form. Unfortunately, this doesn't like get automatically created, but you just do this once and it's all set up for you. So we're going to say about you, we need to select your name from the drop-down: name, email, business name, Instagram handle. So you just go down the list. First name, email, all that stuff. So you just kind of play around with that. It's like, do you want top view, side view? This like kind of looks better as a top. And then you can open this up and it's going to open up their client details. So you're basically making all of these really cool pages that let you reference everybody's data like in a very individual, granular way. And so you would create a different group, just like you did in the front end. You just do it on the back end. And we have this client demographic and marketing details. So how many years have you been in business, profession of other, program promise benchmarks, all of these things. I think this would look better as a top. Yep. But what's cool about this too is you can add a group, and then I'm going to say like internal notes. So you and your team could be like, you could create a field. I'm going to create a long text field. And make it editable. So you could say, looks like she's going to struggle with XYZ. Like after you look at the form, you can be like, cool. And maybe you want to review every form. So we have a single select that is status, like internal review status, reviewed. So these backend, it's not just a way to just view the form data. You can actually use it to kind of like process whatever you need to see. So I also want this to be reviewed. So let's say, cool, I reviewed it. That looks good. I made my notes and I'm going to say reviewed. So you can have all of the form data, an internal review system. And let's say now we have this, we'll say tab forms to review. I want to filter where review status is none of reviewed. Cool, I've got 5 forms to review. So I can pop open client 2. I can review this one. I can say reviewed. Now I've got 4. So if you're processing, like reviewing forms, anything like that, this is another really great thing that you can do. So that is what I wanted to show you today. If you have any questions in the chat, please let me know. I'm happy to nerd out on anything. There's like truly so much that this can do. I'm just giving you this high level overview, but I hope you found at least one thing in this video to upgrade and uplevel and optimize your forms with Airtable. So there's so much you can do aesthetically. You don't have to just jump to fill out or anything like that. You can really utilize the prettiness of Airtable's new form builders there and the functionalities. You can play around with automations to, when a form is submitted, review yourself, and notify yourself, notify your team, and notify your client. And then with interfaces, you can see high level trends, but also do individual reviews inside of your interface. So I absolutely love all of this. If you have any questions about Airtable, I am an Airtable expert. I hope that's been clear in this video. I've been using Airtable every day for the last 6 years, and I specifically help with client management. So all things client management for coaches and service providers. There are so many different ways you can use Airtable forms. You can see we have them for, of course, onboarding, applications, results trackers, pre-submitting call questions, feedback reviews, deliverable revision requests for service providers, anything that you would need a form for, you can absolutely use Airtable forms for it. So if you want to see all of this in action, I do have a free Client Hub template. It's our Client Hub test drive. It's a very basic thing. Airtable can do so much. Like the results tracker isn't in it. It's like truly just showing you how to create a primary client record and then link your notes to that. But even that, if you're like just using your brain or spreadsheets, or you don't have like an actual list of your actual clients, that alone will kind of show you what's capable in Airtable. So that is in the description. Go ahead and grab that. And yes, before I hop off today, I'll check out any of comments, but so drop off any last minute questions there, and subscribe, of course, if you want more Airtable tutorials built specifically for coaches and service providers and more. That is literally all that I make. It's all that we do over here. I'm so excited about these lives. They've been so fun. If you have questions about Airtable forms, fill out what we want to cover in a future video, go ahead and drop those in the comments as well. And I will see you in the next live.